Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is August 8th, Sunday evening. And we'll jump right into things. Myself, TJ Pinger, Richie Barnes, along with you guys again this evening. We had a show planned out. We had a couple of guests lined up, and one was a former player, and then one was a little bit of a recruiting vibe. And we kind of just said that we didn't feel right talking about anything but Coach Bowden today. Obviously, the news this morning that he passed away at the age of 91 hit everybody pretty hard within the FSU fan base. And, obviously we'll talk a lot about Coach Bowden tonight, but again, we will kind of get back to our regular scheduled programming next week. But I chatted with Richie. I chatted with both guests, one of them a former player of Coach Bowden. So a little teaser there for you guys next week, but didn't feel right about doing a recruiting / camp / former player highlight type episode. And so we're here to honor Coach Bowden, hero to a lot of us. And so we'll kind of jump right into it. Obviously hit everybody like a ton of bricks. We knew it was coming, but doesn't make it a ton easier. Richie, outside of that, and we'll get into the show here in just a minute. How was your weekend? How are you doing out, again, outside of the sad news that we're all kind of facing right now?
Yeah, man, the news hit hard today. Coach Bowden, an absolute Florida State legend who, and we'll get into all the stories and all of that, like you mentioned, but it was a good weekend leading up to that. I got to work at 4:30 on Friday morning, so I could leave early and play some golf in the afternoon. I had a really good 9 holes, but more importantly, and even better, believe it or not, coming from me, TJ, Saturday, I got to go up to St. Augustine. My sister, her brother-in-law, my niece and my mom were all up there. My sister and her family all live in Charlotte, and they were visiting in St. Augustine. I got to go see my niece for the first time since Christmas. And it was really cool to see, just how big she's gotten from Christmas to now, where she's 15 months old, walking, nearly running, just spending time with her and the family. That's really special. And today almost reinforces that a lot, that you don't know how much time you get with your family and your loved ones. So I'm glad we made the 4-hour round trip just to go get lunch and hang out with my family. It was special. So shout out Crystal, Joe, and my niece, Emma. It was a blast seeing you all. And I had a great time this weekend.
Yeah, she's a cutie, man. I saw your pictures uploaded, and you're right, man. Just hanging out with family, it all kind of like reinforces to hug your loved ones and love on them. You just don't know when you're not going to be able to. Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee, 1818 West Tennessee and 2550 North Monroe. If you need a little bit of comfort food and you're in Tallahassee, go pick up a gut box. I wonder, I'm sure he did, and we'll transition and get into the show now. But do you think Coach Bowden he had to have at least Guthrie's once, right? Like, there's no way he didn't.
I would think definitely not in the past few years, but the man's been there since 1976, right. And he had a short stint in the 60s as well. So I think he definitely has, and I think it's not a far stretch to say literally hundreds of his players have enjoyed Guthrie's during their time in Tallahassee. We've talked to several of them who have. So absolutely, I think Coach has put down a gut box or two in his time.
I'm sure he has. So so anyway, let's jump into it. Let's dive into it. We appreciate you guys. If you're tuned in, if you're watching this, if you're listening, we definitely appreciate it. We're going to do our best over the next, however long this takes to try and share our thoughts on what Coach Bowden meant to us. And man, I'll tell you, it was. I spoke with you and Harlan right before we got started. It was obviously rough news to wake up to, because now you just kind of been thinking about it all day, right? And everywhere you turn, the entire timeline, the entire social media, the news, Sports Center, everything right now is, well, first of all, there's nothing going on in the sports world anyway, right? The Olympics are wrapping up. It's baseball. There's nothing really with the NFL. Preseason is about to get started. I mean, I guess there was the Hall of Fame game the other night, but everywhere you look right now, it's just Coach Bowden. And it was crappy news, and you want your heroes to live forever. Obviously, that's not possible, right? We understand that, but crappy news to wake up to. But the thing that I've really come away with today, and not that I didn't know this, but the impact that he had on so many people, and just like people like us, man, just like random people that weren't Division I athletes, that weren't on staff at FSU, that weren't high level boosters. Just the way that he treated everybody, people saying like, oh, I was just in school and I'd pass him on campus and he treated me like I was somebody and I was nobody, and just the stories that have come out of that. Everyone has a picture with Coach Bowden. He never turned away a picture. Everyone has a story of Coach Bowden. Everyone has a memory. And those are the things that I've, as rough as today has been at certain times, those are the things that I've really, really enjoyed. And when you think about a legacy and you think about a lasting impact, there aren't many people there are not many people in this world that make that kind of a lasting legacy type impact on so many people, because he wasn't, he also came to Florida State at a time that, I don't know, he never bought his own hype, I think. Like, I think he knew he was good, but he never treated anybody like he was better. He probably knew he was one of the best college football coaches ever. Like, he wasn't dumb. But he never acted like that. He never treated people like that. And that, to me, the fact that everyone has a story of their interaction with Coach Bowden is just incredible to me. And that's really the big takeaway that I've had from today. Obviously, the news stunk this morning and waking up to it was terrible. But that's really what's hit me the hardest today. And so a positive spin on obviously a pretty rough day. Yeah,
man. And to piggyback off that, obviously I've shed more tears today than probably since the, day I found out my father passed. It was hard, and celebrity deaths don't really get me going, but I don't look at Coach Bowden as a celebrity. I look at him as, obviously he was, but he was the coach at Florida State, had a chance to leave for Alabama on multiple occasions and chose to stay in Tallahassee and built a program that we all love. Without Coach Bowden, TJ, you and I are not talking tonight on this podcast where I don't know who the heck you are if it's not for Coach Bowden. So when you think of all the indirect implications he's had on a lot of our lives, to include myself, I think back and I look at my best friends from college, because I'll be honest, I'm not sure I go to Florida State if it's not for Coach Bowden. I was an irrational high school student who thought I wanted to work in sports. So said, hey, let me go to Florida State. They have a good sport management program. Oh, by the way, Bobby Bowden's there, who my dad introduced me to, who I'm sure I'll touch on a little later. But it was surreal. But I don't want to be sad today. I've shed a lot of tears. I'm going to try not to shed any on this episode. But at the same time, I do want to celebrate his life and what he did, because, like I said, we've all seen Twitter and Facebook and the news. This is beyond Florida State Twitter. This is beyond college football Twitter. This is beyond football Twitter in general. You've seen people from all walks of life commenting today since the news came out that Coach passed at 5:08 this morning. And I want to celebrate his life and make this a happy podcast. And it might be tough, but that's my goal. But he's done so much for me personally and so many people that I know that Coach or his family would never know about. And that's how you know you lived a full, meaningful life, when you make that kind of impact on people who you've never heard of in your entire life.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think this is probably going to be the toughest episode that we've had to do. Most of these are pretty upbeat, pretty lighthearted. I do want this to be as happy as we can make it, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough episode to have to do. It'd been easier to just mail this one in and say, we'll see you guys next week. But, I think that, I almost said I think Coach would want us to do this again. I don't know that Coach would care one way or the other, but that's the kind of guy he was. Like, if you're committed to doing something, I mean, he'd want you to do it 100%. And he talked about that, he talked about having a different drive. We'll get into some quotes later. And so, you're absolutely right. We wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't, Richie's whole room is decorated in FSU stuff for those that are, watching, like I had Kara go and grab my signed, old logo football here. Our whole, mean, our whole life right now, not our whole life, but our whole sports life right now is centered around FSU. Like I like the Lakers. I like the Bucks. I mean, I was like Jameis as an extension of liking FSU. I like the Lightning. I like the Rays. They can all. I mean, it's been fun to watch all those teams win titles over the last couple of years, but they can all kick rocks for Florida State. Like, right? Like, and I think we all kind of feel that way. Like, if I offered you an FSU national title, but the Bucks have to go 0-17 this year, I'd take it. Like, I wouldn't bat an eye on that.
It's a no-brainer, right?
And yeah, like same. I mean, you know, there's no question on any of that, and I think that we can kind of attribute that to one person. And our love for Florida State is because of Bobby Bowden. I was listening to and watching the little video that ESPN put out today. So if you go to the ESPN app and you just kind of like find their I think they really just put out one. It's a 4 or 5 minute video on Coach Bowden. It aired on SportsCenter this morning. And then one of the guys on there was talking about how the things that Coach Bowden did will never be done again. You will never see because college football, just the landscape is not set up to where this is possible, but you'll never see one guy go to a university and literally build that program from scratch. Literally take a program that over the last 3 years had won 4 games combined and then build them into an absolute college football power, right? There's a debate on is Florida State a blue blood or a new blood, this, that, and the other. I don't know. To me, I kind of rank Florida State as a top 15 to 20 program all time, which is fine, right? Like if you say your blue bloods are your top 10-ish, and then you've got some other programs that are kind of in that next category. I'd put Florida and Miami right in that same category with Florida State, not necessarily a blue blood like Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, things like that. But right up for him to build it himself over a span of 34 years and put Florida State, who is so much younger than all these other schools, into that category with those schools, it'll never be done again. And what's been so amazing is everyone that you've heard from and every story you've seen and every highlight clip that's been put together, they always save the best for last, and they always end with his faith, whether it's leading Mark Richt to Christ or what he was doing for young kids or just whatever. They always end with that. And that was his life's mantra, right? Or life's motto or whatever. Football is not my priority. And you heard that said over and over and over again. And so he really was. He was a man of faith, a man, just an absolute giant in those realms as well. But he was a pretty good football coach too. And like I said, the things that he was able to do will never be done again. Like Alabama will never finish 14 straight years top 5. Like that's just not going to happen. Especially not now with the playoff and things like that. But that consistency, that level of greatness will never be achieved again. And I'll let you share a couple more thoughts, and then we'll watch a video here in a minute. But I'll stop rambling. It's tough to get out everything you want to say, huh?
It really is. And I go back to think of, how I became a Florida State fan. And I've told the story on the show before, but I want to touch on it again. So my dad grew up and lived in Syracuse, New York for, the vast majority of his, adolescent and young adult life. And when he moved to Florida, he told me the story, after I was born. So my dad was old when he had me, about this. Disclaimer. He was like 46 when he had me. I was his last child. But we bonded over sports. That was what we bonded over. And it was so cool because growing up, we loved college football because I loved playing football, but I didn't have a team. Neither did my dad per se, but he was a huge fan of Bobby Bowden. Again, this guy, an adopted man that grew up in upstate New York, he was a Bobby Bowden fan because he loved sports. He loved competition. And he told me on multiple occasions that the fact that Bobby Bowden would take Florida State to play anyone, anywhere, anytime. I have the shirt right here, but it's not just a mantra. That's what he lived by. He went out to Nebraska. He went to Michigan. He went to Notre Dame. He went to LSU. He went everywhere. And that's what garnered my dad's respect. And my uncle was a Duke graduate. He had served the armed services, went to Duke. And Orlando in 1995 was hosting Florida State versus Duke at the Citrus Bowl for the original kickoff classic that we see like every week these years. And my dad's like, on the way to go pick my uncle up, he's like, you know what? We need to get you guys ready for the game. took us to the store, bought us all Florida State gear. He's like, we're Bobby Bowden fans. We're Florida State fans. And of course he wanted the original trolling of my uncle at the time. And I got props for this episode, TJ. These are the ticket stubs from that game, Florida State Duke, September of 1995. The first Florida State game I ever went to, and I fell in love. They won like 70-26, so it was a no-brainer. But without Bobby Bowden, again, we talk about indirect impacts on our life. I don't know if we go to that game because my dad was a huge Bobby Bowden fan. And today, like my thoughts, and my wife said it a few times, she's like, just look at it this way. I bet your dad is so happy that Bobby's in heaven with him, and he can say, man, what the heck's been going on at Florida State lately? Because we need to have some conversations. So that made me laugh and put a smile on my face on what's, a pretty sad day.
Yeah. I mean, from everything I've ever heard and everything everybody's ever said, he was that kind of guy that could put a smile on your face at any point. We talked about this off air, and I tried to kind of think of the way to word this, but I guess the phrase that people use a lot now, I remember an old song that they actually sang at my church that was the title of the song was legitimately "Bring Me My Flowers While I'm Living," right? Because I won't need them when I'm dead. And I don't know how that. I mean, that song is like 50 something years old, right? So like that's not it could be older, but that's not a popular song. That's like a Southern gospel, like, very churchy song. I don't know how that phrase became popular on social media the last couple of years, but whenever somebody does something great, KD just wins his another gold medal and takes over the all-time scoring, and people are saying like, we need to give KD his flowers or this, that, and the other. That is, it's a great concept because, the worst thing that could happen is for somebody to tragically pass away and you to not know how you really felt about them, right? You never kind of made that apparent. Think about Kobe, right? I think people definitely took him his flowers while he was living. But I think all that said, people definitely gave Coach Bowden his flowers while he was alive. People did not stop bragging on him. They didn't stop bragging about him. He was the topic of conversation on this podcast many times over, whether it be former players, former coworkers, whomever. And so I went back today, and Richie's already seen this, but I'm excited for you guys to check it out. I went back and found some interviews that we had some folks talking about Bobby, and I just put together their thoughts, their thoughts on Bobby Bowden while he was still living, before the diagnosis. One of these was after the diagnosis had come out, but all of them but that one before the diagnosis had come out, and so they weren't just saying it just to be nice because he was at the end of his time. They really believed it and they really felt it. So I put this video together. It's only a couple minutes long, but check it out. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you're watching, I think you'll enjoy watching it. But if you're listening, listen through as we talk with a few people about what Bobby, meant to them. We just watched Bowden from a distance, but what was Coach Bowden like, man?
Yeah, Coach Bowden was he was like a grandfather figure. I mean, he was so he was a stalwart. He was just like there, rock steady, and that he was not going to be moved by any distractions or moved by any sort of superfluous frills. Basically, he was there for you as a player, there for you as a man, as a human. Developing yourself in your faith and developing yourself as just a future father, a future leader, beyond just the field. And I mean, the stories he will give us from Paul Bear Bryant, his time in Alabama, the stories he'll give us about former players, he always has something that he could link to a past experience. Nothing was ever new to him. And obviously that comes with age and wisdom and seeing a lot of things. But, if there was a situation at practice or on the field, he would say, this was like something that happened in 1974. And we're like, Coach, man, none of us were alive then. But it was great to hear him sort of make those connections and say, look, don't worry. Don't get scared. Don't fret, because I've been here before. I've seen how this plays out. We're going to be better on the other side of it. And having a coach who has that sort of confidence in himself, in his program, in us as players, meant a lot.
Well, I think we all know Coach Bowden and his staff set such an absolutely fantastic level of expectation here in the athletic department. And we're all so grateful for what he did back in the day. And I feel fortunate that I had a chance to be here at Florida State during part of his time. I think the level of expectation around here has been really, it's about excellence.
Just what's it like to have Coach Bowden in your house saying, hey, I want you to come play for me, coming in really at being at the front end of that dynasty and then seeing what it became.
But it's incredible. And you think about the talent he brought in. It was a place where coaches weren't getting fired. Coaches weren't really leaving to go get other jobs. And it's, you talk about a family atmosphere. That's what it was. It was hard work. And we didn't win a national championship when I was there. Coach Bowden did end up winning 2. When he came to my house in 1987, I think he was like 63, had 165 wins and ended up with like over 360 wins. And it's incredible. And to say that it's pretty awesome to say that he was my coach and one of the best of all time. And he did the program right. They weren't cheating. They weren't doing anything illegal. It was straight up recruit, straight up play ball. And just grateful for that opportunity.
I'm the old soul. I mean, it was unbelievable to come to Florida State during Coach Bowden's tenure. I mean, that guy was the one who convinced me that it could be done and he would help me get it done. And I'm telling you, he did. One year, he wrote me this letter, and it was on lined notebook paper. And it had this little graph, and it was like up and then down and then even and up and even and down and up. And it was started out and it said 19, whatever year he got here. And then the very end of it was 1993. And he said, this was the progression to win my first national championship. And it was years. And he put a little arrow and he said, I think you are right here. And I have saved that. I took it to heart. And it was right when we were having a little dip after Brooke and Levis Torres were the first WNBA draft picks from Florida State. And boy, he was so right. It just took time.
When I came on to College Game Day in 1996, Florida State was Alabama. Florida State was either winning a national championship or in it or right on the verge of it every year. I mean, 96, 97, 98, 99. It was, and I loved them. I love getting close to their program. Huge fan of Bobby Bowden. And they just have better people, nothing personal. They just are better than who they played. And defensively, they had so many great players, and they had a personality about them that was not BS. It wasn't a fake personality. They were ballers, and they knew they were good.
So the 5 voices you heard there, if you couldn't pick them out, Myron Roll was the first one. FSU head soccer coach Mark Krikorian was the second. Brad Johnson was the third. Coach Sue Samara was the fourth. And then the last one was Kirk Herbstreit. Obviously, everybody with really, really good, great things to say about Coach Bowden. Richie, the one with Coach Sue really stands out to me the most. I know that they're all great, right? You've got a Rhodes Scholar and neurosurgeon on there talking about him, and then a Super Bowl champion and 2-time national champion in soccer, and then Kirk Herbstreit, like probably the biggest name in sports, in college football media. But the one that Coach Sue's quote there was just incredible. The fact that again, we talk about this, but he came up to her and in the midst of an absolute dynasty was worried about helping her succeed. Right. And now Coach Sue is one of the GOATs, right, in college basketball, women's basketball. And that's just who he was. His program was successful, and he wanted to make sure that everybody else was around him as well. And so she talked about that in that interview. Obviously, you can go back and listen to any of those interviews. They're all up on, iTunes, YouTube, wherever. But she talked about that. She talked about that he wanted to make a difference for her and her program and wanted the success there. And so all 5 of those are great. But that one with Coach Sue, really sticks out to me.
Yeah, man, I agree that, like you said, they're all phenomenal. You hear the voice of college football, Kirk Herbstreit, talking about, how Bobby Bowden, what he meant to him, in that clip from our podcast, talking to us. And shout out TJ for taking the time to scrub through 90 plus podcasts to get those comments. And we probably missed some.
Yeah.
But it truly is a testament to Coach Bowden and the legacy he leaves, because you have everyone from all walks of life, different coaches, different sports, all saying the same thing essentially about Coach Bowden, about what he meant to them. And it's never about sports per se. It's more about what it takes to be successful in sports. And I think, you look at Florida State's program, that's something we can be so proud of. Since he took over, is he truly built this program on a foundation. If you're not religious, he built it on faith, but he built it on just treating people well, being nice to people, understanding other people, something I feel like a lot of people forget today. And Coach Bowden never forgot that. He was always wanted to treat everybody, whether it was the women's basketball coach or the school president, he treated them the same, and he accepted and loved them. And that's the type of man I strive to be. I'm not there yet, and I'm trying to get there. But Coach Bowden was absolutely that man, and that's part of what makes me so proud to call myself a Florida State alumni or a fan or a booster, whatever it may be. Just to be attached to Florida State, I'm proud because of Coach Bowden.
Man, we've talked a lot about football, and obviously that's really the first thing that a lot of people think of with Coach Bowden. But I saw a stat that Coach Bowden recruited and coached 3 NFL Man of the Year or Men of the Year. Warwick Dunn, Anquan Bolden, and Derek Brooks. Honestly, 3 of the highest character, highest quality individuals that you could ever imagine. You also throw in the fact that he also coached Myron Rolle, who literally walked away from the game to save people's lives. Coached a guy named Charlie Ward, who probably would have won an NFL Man of the Year had he gone the route of football, right, instead of basketball. And the list goes on and on. I'm just thinking not only of the football side, because we all know about prime time, we all know about Ron Set, we know about all the legends that he coached, and Brooks and Bolden and Dunn were obviously legends on the football field too. But I think it just speaks to really what was most important to Coach Bowden. And I know that winning games was very important to him, but the fact that he was having such an impact on these young men's lives, and molding them into the kind of man that Richie just said, but like that we want to become, the role models that I have a 13-month-old son. I would love nothing more than my son to, have half the class and character that a Warwick Dunn or a Derek Brooks or an Anquan Bolden or one of those, a Myron Rolle, or I wouldn't mind if he could play like them too. But, I would love for my son and my daughter as well to have those kind of people as heroes, right? And have those kind of people like Coach Bowden watching out for my son, right? When and daughter, when they go off to college and stuff like that. So, again, just kind of like reflecting and remembering different things that we've seen. Football was fantastic, but what he was instilling in players. I've seen James Coleman, kind of be tweeting all day about, how upset he is. We had a former Coach Bowden player that was scheduled to come on and said that today's been really, really tough on him, and he just didn't know that this week would be best, and so we pushed him back to next week just because, he said I'd run through a brick wall for that guy, and he said this is hitting me pretty rough right now, and so it's not you're not that attached to people just because they're a good coach, right? I think you're attached to those kind of people because of what they do for you personally, and we're talking about legacy and the impact that Coach Bowden made on these players and really on the entire community of Tallahassee. It was so much more than football. So I'm rambling at this point, so I'll let Richie take over for a minute. We'll move on to kind of our next thoughts.
Yeah, and you mentioned all the Man of the Years, and shout out to Marvin Shade Tree Jones. He tweeted out that in 2003, he was the New York Jets nominee for the Man of the Year. So he had the 3, but he was a lot closer to having many more, which is no surprise to anybody who's watched Bobby Bowden. If you watch the Bowden Dynasty, which my wife and I watched today because we have the DVD, and what else are we supposed to watch on a day like today? It's truly phenomenal. All the lives he's touched, and we talk about his accomplishments. 14 years, top 5 in a row, 2 national titles. If he played in a playoff era or coached in a playoff era, he'd probably have 4 or 5, and that might be a little conservative because he had the best team many years. But back then, it only took 1 game to derail an entire season. Which people debate about the playoff now, is it good or bad? That's for another episode, another day. But it just shows, man, Coach Bowden, everything he did for so many people, not just on the football field, off the field entirely as well. If he had never won a national championship, I still think you'd have the same level of outpouring of support that we've seen today because of the lives he touched, whether it be, Work Done, Work Done committed to Bobby Bowden on Christmas Day when he was in high school. And then his mother was shot in the line of duty as an officer. And Coach Bowden said, listen, I understand if you want to stay home at LSU. And Work Done said, no, I'm coming to play for you, Coach, at Florida State. That was my promise. Let me take care of my family and come play for you. And everybody knows the story of Work Done since then. And that's just one small example. Just a phenomenal legacy. And again, a tough pill to swallow, but also an awesome thing that we can celebrate as a family today.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the lives that he has indirectly impacted because of the man that he was. You talk about Dunn, and, I love the story. I hate that he went to Clemson, but I love the story of, one of Dunn's recipients being Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson Watson won a Heisman. I know he won a Natty, and then just now making millions of dollars in the NFL. But you look at the way that has directly impacted, right? Like Coach Bowden being the man that he was, doing the things that he did, essentially put Deshaun Watson into the NFL, right? Like I'm not saying that there's no way he gets it without it, but that the indirect impacts are massive.
It's a byproduct of Coach Bowden. Yeah. It is
Derek Brooks.
Yeah.
Derek Brooks has a school down here named after him. I don't know that I don't know really what his affiliation or involvement level is now, but that school was started when I was in school and we played them a ton. We always won, shout out us, because they were a brand new school, but we played them a lot and he was very involved there. So I don't know what his involvement is over at Brooks DeBartolo, but there's literally a school that exists here in Tampa because of, again, Derek Brooks and who he is and his name. And again, indirectly from Coach Bowden. You look at the work that Charlie Ward does and Chris Ricks with both of them with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And the list goes on and on and on and on, even down to, your current recent players. You look at, you look at what James Coleman does all the time with his giveaways and his food drives and stuff. You look at guys from the 2013 national championship team that, Jameis Winston doesn't come to Florida State if not for Coach Bowden, right? The work that he does in the community and his giving back, and the list goes on and on and on. It's not just our favorite guys, right? Like Jameis and Derek and Warwick and people like that, but it's all an offshoot of what he does, right? You look at, it just goes so far. You look at Brooke Wyckoff doing her Moms and Coaching podcast. That doesn't exist without Coach Bowden, right? Like she doesn't come here and play women's basketball. Like that just, all of that stuff like transcends. And, we think about the fun that we've had with these different athletes, Matt Nelson and, Kaylee Mudge and Liz Hardy and all these people. Like Florida State is not Florida State without Coach Bowden, and it's crazy to think about it in that perspective, from that frame of reference. And how, of course we don't have this podcast if he doesn't start, but all these other people that we've looked up to and enjoyed, and these legends that we've gotten to talk to. Do you think Coach Ham is here, without Coach Bowden? It's all kind of indirect. He put Florida State on the map, and obviously eternally grateful to him. The millions and millions of lives that will have been and will be impacted, because now every major athlete, every athlete at all, most students, that end up at Florida State, they're the big reason that they're there is because of the impact and the legacy that
whether they
Coach
know it or
Bowden
not.
had.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that's just talk about a man that put the college absolutely on the map. I mean, it is remarkable. Richie, do you have any memories or anything that like stands out? Favorite Bowden memories, favorite quotes, favorite. This is a tough one, but because I'm sure you have 36 of them. But
I think it's easy for me, actually, if we're talking just Bobby memories. And, I mentioned the story about how my dad, took me to the Florida State Duke game in '95 just to troll my uncle who was a Duke graduate. But after that, I became a Florida State fan, and my dad, we bonded over Florida State so much, and he was my hero, him and Bobby Bowden, of all people. So I remember getting to Florida State, and my dad was so excited because, I was a first generation college grad, like neither of my parents graduated college. He was so excited for me to go to Florida State. He's like, you're going to see such a great football team, and you could see a legend of a coach. You're probably going to see 2 national titles. We didn't see a lot of success in the field, but I saw a lot of fun off the field. And I will never forget my first game I went to. And I might have told the story in this pod. I might not have, but if I had and you heard it, you're going to hear it again. Florida State was playing Troy in 2006. We had just beat Miami to shut down the old Orange Bowl. We were top 10 in the country, huge hopes for the season. So I go to the game with a lot of my really good friends that I'm still friends with today. And after the game, Florida State wins. It was closer than it should have been, but Florida State won. But as the game's over, I see Bobby. I'm in the student section. So if you know, the student section is in the end zone at Doak. We see Bobby walking. So I'm like, let me just go clap for the guy, man. That's a living legend. I've never seen him in person before. This is my first time other than that 95 game in the Citrus Bowl, which I was a mile away from him. And, he takes his hat off. He's ready to tip it to the crowd. Then he throws it up into the student section. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool. And there's a crowd in front of me. They all jump to grab it. No one grabs it. Someone tips it backwards. It lands right in front of me. I'm like, oh my God, that's Bobby's hat. And this is a quick process moment. So I jump on it, grab it, snag it in a heartbeat. Some other girl tries to dive for it, like scrapes her face or something. I don't know. I no apologies here because I got the hat. And I have it right here. And it's truly special. He signed the hat before every game he wore. It was an amazing feeling. And to get that at my first Florida State game, and that's the picture of me after that, catching that hat that night.
Look at you with the face paint, bro.
So yeah, I face painted. I was a freshman. It was my first game ever in Tallahassee. We're tailgating and drinking a little bit. I was 18. Don't tell my mom, but someone's like, "Hey, let's paint our faces." Like, yeah, let's do it. But I did it, and man, this hat, like, it meant so much before today, but to still have this today and find that I didn't have that picture for the past few years until today. I had to text some people to find it, and someone finally sent it to me. That meant a lot because that was memories. I remember the next day I called my dad and said, "Hey, man, you'll never believe what happened." I told him the story. I just told all of you guys. And he said some words I cannot say on this podcast, but he was so happy, so proud that I somehow made that happen. That's probably my best Bobby memory, and I don't think that will ever be topped. It never was. And I had some other good ones. I was able to be on the field for Bobby's last game in the Gator Bowl against West Virginia, where he got his start. Man, so many good memories. I can't go through them all, but those ones stand out. And the fact that I have the memorabilia to all 3 of the ones that I talked about tonight is so special. And even texting my mom, who doesn't care about sports at all, she's like, "You'll always remember those days. Cherish those days." And I'm like, "Mom, I agree. They are special."
Yeah, my mom texted me this morning and said the same thing. Not obviously a little bit different, but my mom texted me this morning and said, "I'm very sorry. I know your heart's hurting. I know your heart's heavy." And she sent me a picture of me and my 2 kids and my niece, and we're all wearing Florida State stuff. And she's like, our whole family, is like, you're sitting there on the couch with all the kids, like wearing FSU stuff. And like, that doesn't happen without him, man, seeing, I mean, there's so many memories to kind of talk about. And I'll say this, and then we have a guest we'll get on here in a minute just to chat with us. But Harlan, I saw your picture with Coach Bowden when you were little. I don't know if you have a memory you want to share now or share later. Add yourself anytime. But and then we'll get to a guest. But yeah, I mean, there's so many memories to share. And Richie just basically like stole the show with like all of the times that like Coach Bowden like and him had like personal interactions. I'm just like, all right, well, Richie, nothing I say can matter now. But seeing him get carried off the field, I remember being 2009. So yeah, 19 years old, like getting in trouble from my parents because like I was cussing out the TV when we were losing at the beginning of that West Virginia game. Cause I was like, you Bleeps are going to lose in this man's last game. And then them turning it around and winning that last game, man, to see him get carried off, to see how much he meant to those players after a few very rough years, that was just so special to see him go out like that. So cool moment there for sure.
And
Did you have a thought on that?
I was so blessed, like, because I had, I've talked about this before. I wrote for the FSU and I wrote for Noel Digest, which was the Scout/Fox affiliate for Florida State websites. So I was graduating. This was the last game I was going to cover before graduation. And Fox Sports, they paid for my hotel, they paid for my travel, and they gave me the sideline pass. And I made up my mind. I'm like, I'm not doing any work. I'm just going to enjoy this game, take it in. I'll videotape the interview for the press game or post game afterwards. And again, I just walked around the sidelines the entire time of that game, just like in awe, enjoying it. And shout out Steve Chase. I don't know if he still does photos, but he got this photo of me at Bobby's last game, just on the sideline or in the end zone, just watching it. And it was the coolest thing. And I felt bad. My girlfriend at the time, who I'm not married to, she's happily married now. Good for her. I'm happily married. Blend that. But it was a fun time. And my sister was actually in the stadium at that game. And she sent me a picture this morning of the band when they split out Bobby on the field, which was just the coolest thing. So to have, my sister, who I just saw yesterday and saw her niece, and this morning we're texting about something completely different, like Bobby. I love my relationship I have with my sister. But again, Florida State plays a big role in that because we talk about Florida State a lot, and that does not happen without Coach Bowden.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's add a guest real quick in here. Some of you guys may know Peach from
What's up, Peach?
FSU Twitter. Peach is like one of the OGs of FSU Twitter. If you weren't on the app in like 2013, 14, 15, then you just have no idea. But man, how's it going, bro? How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
Good, man. Thanks for coming on. We put out a message that anybody that wanted to kind of come share some thoughts, we'd be open to it. So man, how I'll let you take the floor, bro. Like I don't have to ask you. You know what you're doing on here.
I mean, I volunteered to come on the podcast. I volunteered to come on, and I don't even know what to say. Florida State athletics in general, particularly football, mean a lot to me. I didn't go to Florida State. I grew up in, probably 2 hours away from Tallahassee. My dad went to Florida State. I grew up going to games. When my mom was 7.5 months pregnant with me. She was at the choke at the dope game. So I like to call that my first game.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. So, like I said, Florida State means everything to me. And Bobby Bowden, as far as I'm concerned, is Florida State football. And that was what was hitting me the hardest today. I'm 26, and I have memories of Bobby Bowden. I've been to games that Bobby Bowden's coached. I went to games in '99. I went to all sorts of games. I didn't get a chance to go to his last game, but, when I was truly digesting what was happening, things weren't going that great at Florida State. I remember one of my first true memories of following the game. I have memories of being at games, NC State 99. I remember being there, but I remember being 10 years old and it was Florida State and Penn State in the Orange Bowl. I got a chance to go to that. And I think it was triple overtime. Field goals kept getting missed. 26-23, I think the score was. Joe Paul versus Bobby. But man, what was hitting me today, I don't know where I was going with that, but you know, he built something that I love so much. And from scratch, essentially. I think I saw a stat today where Florida State was like 4-23 the 3 years prior. Over. You know, like you guys can relate, you know, I get on Twitter every day and I tweet about Florida State, and I would, you know, and am I proud of that? You know, that's probably not something to be proud of, but I love Florida State football.
Yeah.
I live and breathe it. My friends all make fun of me. I don't go to weddings in football season. You know, I've never been to a fall wedding in my life. I'm going to the Notre Dame game. I can't wait for that game. Oh my goodness.
That's going to be special, man. That's going to be so special. Just knowing everything that's happened and that they have the time to plan for it. We'll all be there. TJ, myself, UPG, obviously, we're all going to be there. It's going to be so special. I don't think there will be an empty seat in the stadium, you know, 45 minutes before the game, like probably an hour before the game. Like I'm going into my seat as soon as the gates open because I do not want to miss a single thing, because this is going to be a special moment for all of Florida State fans, win, lose, or draw. Obviously, we cannot draw like we did against UF in what year was that? The choke at 95, I believe. 94, yeah. So there's no draw, but win or lose, this will be a special night. And I cannot imagine if Florida State can pull the upset, the emotions that will be going through Florida State fans that night, because I thought about that a little bit today. I had to stop myself. I'm like, no, don't even think about that, because that's going to be a special night regardless, no matter the outcome. I can't wait to be there.
Right.
Pease, do you have like a favorite memory or a favorite quote? I mean, I'm right there with you, right? Like you kind of just put it in a perspective for me that maybe I shouldn't be on Twitter all day, like talking about something that like makes no impact, but it does make an impact on your life, right? Like I've, you know, I was talking with these guys before, like I went and saw Coach Bowden at my church now. I mean, I didn't even go to church there, but like I've seen Coach Bowden and at like different speaking engagements, whether they were like at a church or different function or whatever. And, you know, even if you're not, obviously Coach Bowden's faith played such a huge role in his life, but even if you're not religious, just like the good principles that he lived by of like legitimately just like working hard and treating other people right. Like you don't have to be religious to like say like, yeah, those are objectively good things. Like everyone should do those things. Like don't be lazy and don't be a jerk. So I don't know. Like it just, I don't even know where I was going with that. We're the same way as you. Like we've been on here for 45 minutes and I don't think we've said anything. But you have a favorite memory, I guess is the question that I asked. Favorite couple of memories, like what kind of like sticks out, whether it's something funny he said, a game, you know, kind of whatever.
I've actually met Coach Bowden once when I was 10 years old. I don't even know what it was. I think it was a fan day with my dad. Obviously in Tallahassee, where I got to meet him. And I don't remember. I mean, I was probably with him for like 120, 150 seconds. You know what I mean? But I do remember, and it's the quintessential thing that everyone says about him, it feeling like he was like my grandpa or something. He talked to me that way. I mean, some of my favorite memories are the funny stuff that he would say. Like I remember just, you know, the going into halftime quotes, the pray to not get false starts, you know, some of those quotes. The thing that I loved the most about Coach Bowden, you know, I love what he created, that, you know, is one of my biggest passions in life, but I really admire his faith. You know, and I'm not going to take up too much of his time, but, you know, I'm a born again Christian, and just seeing, I mean, I would be remiss to think that, you know, maybe reading the book Called to Coach, growing up with Coach Bowden, being a big part of my life, even though, you know, I only met him once, maybe seeds were planted there that, you know, so I don't know. His character blows my mind, to be honest with you, especially now that I'm a little older. You know, as a kid and as a teenager, I wasn't, you know, I didn't grasp it as much, to be honest with you. But looking now, seeing the way, I don't know of a coach in sports that former players love him the way that Bobby's former players love him. besides Mickey Andrews. That's the only other one I can think of.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Memories in terms of games, obviously the West Virginia, the final game, that was a great memory. I remember that game vividly. I remember my dad crying at the end of that game. But the one thing I'll remember, and then I'll let you guys keep processing this. I don't know if we have any other guests queued up, but it's just the way Bowden treated people around him. It's very clear. It's the sort of the rhetoric around Coach Bowden is so consistent.
Yeah.
He was a great man. He treated me so well. It truly was about people first, which in the college football industry, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's not abundant, just a great man. Seriously, just a great man. And I was thinking about what I was going to say, and it sounds cheesy, but I just feel so blessed that I got to walk the earth at the same time and witness some of it, to be honest with you. It means a lot to me. It really does. So again, thank you guys for having me on. I can't wait to be in Tallahassee. I mean, good God, what is it? It's going to be 28
days. Work done, baby.
Work done. Tomorrow will be, Xavier Rhodes, take Cody, whatever you want to call it. But, man, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for doing this. Love the show. Go Noles, and rest in peace, Bobby Bowden. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
man.
appreciate you coming and spending a couple minutes with us. I was telling Richie, man, I love, as rough as today has been, I've literally just been scrolling my phone the entire day because I love seeing the positive stories, whether it's from people in the media, whether it's from obviously FSU fans, from rival fans, from rival teams, like, teams that you don't even think about being like, rivals, just like random teams like Minnesota and Boston College that are tweeting their like heartfelt appreciation. And so like the day has been rough, but it has been encouraging, and it has been neat to hear the stories, because his legacy truly will live forever. And so we appreciate you coming on and talking with us and just telling us kind of your take as well. So we're excited, man, to get to Tallahassee. I have to stop by and have some fried chicken on us for sure. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be special to be back there. Going to be a lot of emotion. I was in Tallahassee for the game after the not to compare like bad things, but I was in Tallahassee for the game after the library shooting at Strozier. And that was just such a weird feeling, but there was so much emotion in the stadium. And I think that it's going to be a similar, happier, emotion, but a lot of emotion either way. So we look forward to seeing you there, man. And thanks for hanging out, bro.
Thank you guys. God bless. See ya.
See you, buddy.
Have a good man.
Peach, man, he again an OG Twitter legend. I love hearing from people. Like I know that it's kind of an awkward time, and so telling people, hey, you want to come on? I mean, some people don't feel comfortable doing that in the middle of the day anyway, but really, really cool to get to chat with him and hear other people's perspective. We mentioned a couple of quotes, and we can kind of talk about some quotes and then get into, kind of anything else you want to, and then we'll try and wrap up and get out of here. But he had a quote. They said, don't go to the grave with life unused. Yeah. And man, I just don't know that he had some funny quotes too. We'll get into some of those, but I don't know that there's any doubt. I mean, there is no doubt that he absolutely lived life to the absolute fullest. Coached his tail off, worked his tail off, investing in other people. And like I said, as we were wrapping up with P, just the legacy that he will leave behind and the millions of lives that will be impacted by him directly and indirectly. You think about every student that every kid that Mark Richt coached, every kid that Manny Diaz coached, every kid, it is absurd to think about the impact that Coach Bowden will indirectly have on millions and millions of people. And man, if you ever talk about a guy that didn't go to the grave with life unused, he was absolutely that guy.
Yeah, and Bobby Bowden, he was the king of like one-liners, right? You'd have sports journalists trying to ask him like a gotcha question, and he'd come back with a one-liner out of nowhere. And the reporter would be like, "Oh, well, I had no idea how to respond to that." But one of my favorite ones was, before one of the games in Gainesville against UF, Doug Johnson, who was the quarterback for the Florida, it was in the pregame. He threw a football at Bobby Bowden and missed. Thank goodness, because Bobby's national treasure. We had to protect him, right? But he threw a football at him and it missed him, and people kind of took notice, and he wasn't suspended or anything like that. And then a reporter said, Bobby, what would have happened if a Florida State quarterback had thrown a football at Steve Spurrier the way that Doug Johnson just threw one at you? And he said, well, he probably would have hit him. Like he was just so quick, witty, and everything. And I love that so much about Coach, because he was ready for everything, and it's just one of those things, man, where we've seen today on interviews that have resurfaced where, he jokes about, before every game, the coaches go out and shake hands unless it's Steve Spurrier. But he also has a lot of comments complimenting Steve Spurrier, saying, listen, he's a really good coach, a good guy. And they both worked together once they were out of college football coaching, trying to help underprivileged kids get at scholarships and get to college football and get their opportunity. To see things like that come full circle, it's just so special.
Yeah, I was watching an interview he did on Leno or Letterman or something, where he was talking about thinking that he'd never win a national title because they just kept, for all intent, was blowing it against Miami and not being able to get into the game. And he was talking, kept having a wide left, and then Nebraska goes down, and you think they've won it, but they put time back on the clock and they line up for the kick. And he was like, I was so used to blowing it with wide lefts or wide rights or wide lefts. Sorry. Or sheesh, I'm blowing it here. So used to blowing it with wide rights, but that old wide left was pretty good to us. So they ended up obviously winning by Nebraska absolutely shanking a field goal. And man, his one-liners were great. He talked about playing Miami. He said, as good as we were, we didn't win a national championship until 93, mainly because I kept losing to Miami on missed kicks. I used to get mad because nobody else would play Miami. Notre Dame would play them, then drop them. Florida dropped them. Penn State dropped them. And we'd play Miami and lose by 1 point on a missed field goal, and it would knock us out of the national championship. I didn't want to play them either, but I had to play them. That's what I said. When I die, they'll say, at least he played Miami, And so thinking he wouldn't win one, but at least he wasn't afraid to play anybody. On that shirt that Richie has, that's what, that's the quote: anyone, anywhere, anytime. And he truly lived by that and built up a program by not being afraid of anybody. So I guess we'll kind of wrap up. I mean, we mentioned this, we talked about this a little bit. I'm not going to play this video because it won't be as good, just on audio. Go to the FSU football. I mean, if you're watching this, you've seen it, but go to the FSU football Twitter. They put out a fantastic 4 or 5 minute video that was well done today. I watched it like 3 times. I was going to play it, but I'm gonna pass on that just because we're a little short on time, and I'm sure Richie has The Bachelorette or something to watch. But not tonight. But really good video that they put together there. And so go check that out. We'll wrap up with this, Richie, unless you kind of have any other thoughts. I mean, don't let me slow us down. But we talked with Peach about it. I mean, any other thoughts on being in Tallahassee for Notre Dame in the next few weeks? Is there anything you like? Obviously we're looking forward to it, but how crazy do you think that's going to be?
It's going to be insane. I think the line for pictures at the Bobby Bowden statue will be longer than like any brand new attraction at Disney or Universal that are 8+ hours. But just talking about quotes, one last one I wanted to leave on, and I can't wait to be up there for Notre Dame. It'll be special for so many reasons, obviously for Coach Bowden, and for J-Mac. A lot of FSU Twitter, really mourning his loss still. So that's going to be extremely overwhelming for those people. So my thoughts and prayers with all of you, because I can't imagine. But in honor of Coach, my favorite Bobby Bowden quote, I just want to read it. He said, if somebody mistreats you, treat them good. that kills them. And I think that's such a perfect representation of all the bad in the world and all this, all these radicalizations of what political side you're on or whatever it may be. Bobby Bowden lived by that. He's like, if someone mistreats you, just treat them nicely, because you're going to feel good because you're still being a good person, and them, it's going to eat at them. Or, best scenario, they're going to realize they're living a life meaningless and turn around and try and treat people well as well. And I think that's all Bobby Bowden wanted, was to be treated well and to treat people well. And that quote kind of, exemplifies that for me. And that's how I want to try and continue to live my life. Make no enemies. Again, there's going to be fallouts, whether it's relationships, family, friends, and whatever it may be. We all go through that, but still treat everybody like a human being, because we all are in this together. We're all, no matter where you come from, what your political ideology is, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're all here together. We all need to survive and coexist together. And Coach Bowden was the person who truly preached that. And I think that message could go a long way in today's climate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. An absolute hero. Bobby Bowden passes away at 91 years old this morning in Tallahassee. Saw somebody tweet, I believe, earlier today, that they should let Ann throw the spear for the Notre Dame game. I have no idea if she would want to do that or have any interest in doing that or not. But if that would be something that she wants to do, we've got a lot of people in the boosters office that listen to this. I hope that we can make that happen. Again, I don't know if she has any interest. I don't know if she'd rather just be chilling at home that night. But she, my wife might not be staying for the game, so I got an extra seat. She could sit by me. But I hope that it'd be cool if they did something. They're going to do something special, and there's not going to be a dry eye in Doak, and then hopefully we go out and kick Notre Dame's tail, because that'd be a fitting way to honor Coach. But man, what a life, what a legacy. Really enjoyed doing this. We're not going to be done talking about Coach Bowden. Can't fit everything we think about. One of the greatest humans ever to live into a 1 hour episode. So we will continue to talk about Coach Bowden like we've done on this show for the last year. When we get people that were connected to him or not connected to him, I'm very interested to hear people's takes on him and their stories. And if you guys get sick of hearing me ask people about Coach Bowden, you can go find another podcast. So, because I'm not going to stop. So excited for that. Excited to continue to hear from people and hear their thoughts on him. Man, I don't have any other shout outs though, besides that, shout out the Bowden family, obviously, tough there. The folks within Florida State's organization, football, athletics, and just the school in general, that both current and former employees that interacted with him and, had that close relationship with him. I know that this is tough on all of us, but certainly tougher on the ones that knew him very well. So those in the Bowden family, those close to the Bowden family, our thoughts and prayers are with them. I really don't have any other shout outs besides that. We'll get into more, the FSU started camp. We'll get into camp talk. We've got a couple of interviews lined up for next week. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a pop-up episode to replace kind of what we would have done this week, but we'll figure that out. But yeah, my shout outs are for the Bowden family and those close this week. You got anything, Richie?
No, I think that's it. Today was about Bobby and celebrating Bobby Bowden in his life. And we want to obviously keep Ann Bowden in our prayers and their 6 children. Very important. We've all gone through, everybody, at least our age has lost a loved one, and probably people younger than us have as well. But all you can do is give support. There's not much that any of us can do, but I truly do believe thoughts and prayers is not just a saying. I do think that goes a long way, and the Bowden family could use it. And I'll be sending mine. I know TJ will be his, and hopefully all of our listeners will as well. Even if you're not religious, any thoughts or prayers or well wishes are going to be very well received by the Bowden family.
I want to take just a second and read this poem that I've heard at several funerals. I've heard about 1,000,000 times, and I was reminded of it today with the news of Coach Bowden passing. And y'all bear with me for a minute, and I'll read it and give some thoughts, and then I'll let Richie pick a song and get out of here. But it's a poem about a rose, and it says, "I once admired a lovely rose that grew beside the way. And with great pride, I picked that rose and wore it for a day. And all day long it brightened up my tattered old lapel. And when at last the rose was gone, there lingered yet the smell. So from that single lovely rose, I learned a major lesson. Lovely things are sometimes brief, but they leave a deep impression and bolsters up my fainting soul that keeps my heart from grieving, to know that God has made some things that linger after leaving." We've talked about Coach Bowden's legacy, and man, I think the legacy of his life is something that's going to linger for much longer than the short 91 years that he was on this earth. His impact will be a generational impact, and we're so thankful for the time that God did give us to have him on this earth. Like Peach said, I'm a little sad knowing that he's not walking on the same earth as I am now. But as someone of faith, I know that I'll see him again. And I'm thankful for the impact that he did have. And I'm thankful that the sweet fragrance, the remembrance and the legacy that he has will live on really forever. His impact will continue to live on forever. So thanks for bearing with me on that. I wanted to share that. Richie, you mentioned a song. You can go ahead and say it. We'll play us out. Harlan, take us home. Richie, what song are we playing tonight?
Yeah, I think a fitting one, I did see his favorite song for Coach Bowden was J Alabama, the Alabama fight song, which my wife loved. But one I think is really fitting for a guy that got his start as a head coach at West Virginia is John Denver, Take Me Home Country Roads. He's going home, and I think it's very fitting that Coach Bowden is going to meet his maker on a Sunday, a man of extreme faith, extending into heaven, and he deserves nothing but that. So again, a somber episode, but also we hope we brought some joy and celebration to his life as well, because his life has a lot more to celebrate than we do to mourn right now, as much as this may hurt.
Take Me Home Country Road. Play us out, Harlan. Let's get out of here, and we'll be back probably next Sunday, maybe before. We'll see. But thanks everybody for hanging out. Rest in peace to the absolute GOAT. Bobby Bowden passes away, 91 years old, in Tallahassee, Florida this morning. Until we see you guys again next week, go Noles.